So we had Jared James out there, and Jared went to an audience of had to be about 6,000 or 8,000 people, and he went and said, "How many of our markets are light on inventory?" And the crowd roared. How many of you want to find a way to get more listings? It was like a standing ovation. And he said, how many of you have a strategy which you execute on 2 hours every single day? And 3 people stood up. Does that make sense? That simple comment really resonated with me.
That's incredible, Rob. That's incredible. Only 3 people out of that many thousand.
Out of 8,000 said that they have something that they do for at least 2 hours a day, every working day.
Well, I know in the ramp class, it's solidified in the process. And so that is definitely part of the process here in the ramp.
So is there anybody on this call that, is there anybody, I'm going to use the negative. Is there anybody on this call that doesn't need new listings and feels like they have an ample supply of inventory coming in? Please share with us what you're doing. And there's 80 people on the call right now. So I'm going to assume that nobody is overwhelmed by the amount of listing inventory coming that they can't handle it. So it begs the second question, you know, and this is the first way to create new inventory is consistency. And I ask you all, what do you do every day consistently to increase your listing inventory? And if there's not a good answer for that, that really needs to beg us to create some processes to create it, because it's not going to happen by chance. We're not going to win the lottery in listing homes. Okay, you can come in. So, so Raina's cold calling 1 to 2 hours a day. And you know, I think Raina,
Rob?
Yes.
Yeah, I do on a consistent basis 300 contacts, which 150 of them are door knocks. I add them to my database, and the 150 are calls, which means my sphere of influence, which includes the people from the door knocking. And also I call on expired and canceled listings. I do it consistently. I have an accountability on the 300 contacts. If I don't, it's a $20 per each missed contact to my buyer's agent.
Right. So no, that's good. And the consistency, I think, is the key in doing this. I'm gonna do my best to introduce you to some ideas that you haven't, you know, heard every other day from every other expert. Okay. Okay. The second category of ways to create new inventory is a home needed mailer with specific requirements. Okay, and this is can do 2 things. One of them is, you know, most of us still have abundance of buyers and we can't find the property to sell them. So if we take a specific buyer's need, send it out into an area and say, hey, I have someone looking for a home just like yours. I have a family looking for a 4-bedroom, 2-bath home in this school district. If you know anyone that that was thinking of selling, please reach out and contact me. Next one is if you see a home listed, or if you do list a home or sell a home, to do those just listed or just sold communications. And I know everybody's accustomed to doing a mailer, but I would just say, let's get out of our comfort zone and possibly do a video, find a way to syndicate the video out. You know, maybe even, you know, go to the door knocking stage instead of, you know, just doing the traditional, put my credit card out and send out a mailer. And this is going to be taking advantage of the reticular activating system that is embedded in humans. And, you know, if you were to buy a new car, And if you've ever done this, and then you all of a sudden see everybody else who has that same vehicle, that is the reticular activating system kicking into effect. And it happens at the subconscious level. So when people see a new listing coming on or a home sold in their neighborhood, we all, at least I hope we all know that there's usually one or two that follow. And is that because the neighborhood is predestined to do that? Maybe, but I think that it moves forward people's decisions when they see others do it. Okay, so oftentimes in our little farm, a new listing gets sold or comes on. Next thing you know, there's 2 or 3 others that come on in that same area. And then, you know, that might quiet down for a bit because everybody who was thinking has already come to the forefront. That's the reticular activating system that is in our subconsciousness. That's number 3. Number 4 is what I call playing the long game, right? Playing the long game is what we talked about as a group, and I'm gonna, you know, hold myself out and say I've been bad about putting together the groups to do the mailings, and I have Shantae here. Shantae, did you make any progress on postcards?
Yeah, we did the postcards. We're up to the 4th step.
You're up to the 4th step, and how many postcards have you designed?
So we're not doing postcards for each step. We didn't think that out.
Okay,
It's the same kind of thing.
so how many you designed? 4 cards?
We have 5.
5 cards. So Shantae's here. I'm doing it live in Westfield, and she and you're doing FISBOs? Okay. So I actually, when I went out to the conference, I went to the vendors, everybody that was selling postcards. I wanted to get ideas, creative ideas on, you know, FISBOs and expireds. And I'm going to try to pull us up to my screen here and just share with you something that I came across. And it's not perfect, but at least it's a starting point. This was for expireds. And let me share my screen now. I have it up here somewhere. Now, not perfect. Did your listing agent not make enough noise? We make a lot of noise and attract big crowds of buyers. Puzzled why your home didn't sell? We could put the pieces back together. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, which is a dig against going back to the listing agent that didn't sell it. And your home hasn't sold yet. Don't panic. We can help. So this person had a 4-week campaign that they would do for expireds. And the gentleman at the vendor said that it must be working well because they continue to do it. And he was very open and shared that with me. So that's going to be something that our R&D department, which is called the rip off and duplicate department, if you're wondering, will be putting out and sharing with you guys. No, Audrey, what does that crowd mean?
Did you want to say crowd, CROWD, or did you deliberately say CROUD?
That wasn't me. That was a card that we ripped off and duplicated. So it looks like there's a typo.
Oh, okay.
So so does that make any sense? Like, I would imagine if I'm an expired listing or a FISBO, right, you probably get bombarded when it first hits the market. But I would guess that 90 days out, 60 days out, 45 days out, that things come off pretty quickly because everybody's jumping at that early point and nobody's playing the long game.
I can confirm that, Rob. There is so many people, so many agents that are just calling. And, you know, there is material out there that they're mailing, but nothing like that hits the reticular.
Yep. So the next one is one that I call mastery, or FISBO and expired mastery, which is you need to have that inner confidence so that you can have conversations, not get emotionally or mentally impacted by those ones that are rejections. Because if you're going to change your behavior because of rejection, then probably, possibly sales isn't for you, as well as, going out and doing this expired FISBO campaign, is going to be emotionally stressful for you and, challenging. But if you know exactly how you're going to answer these questions, and it doesn't work all the time, but you want to have the same strategy that you can deploy. And, I went out with my audience of one here in Westfield, since we're not, we didn't promote it as live, but I went out with Shantae, and I'm proud to say we got rejected, right, Shantae? But we did put on a good show, right? And if we do that enough times, we will find success. Okay. And the strategy was trying to hit the nerve of what pain there was with just sitting with the property. So it's not over till it's over, but I hope that works. But I feel huh? He just called you. This is not a setup. So Shantae said the gentleman just called her. But I mean, I really feel like we covered everything we needed to cover. And, the moral to that story is that, if we quit and stop doing that, that's the end. But if we did that 5 times, how many do you think we would get? I'm just asking you an honest question. If we had that same dialogue, we did it 5 times, is it 0? Is it 1? Is it 3? No, it definitely wouldn't be 5 out of 5. If it was 5 out of 5, we would be setting ourselves for failure. But would it be at least 1 out of 5? Would it possibly be 2 out of 5? So Shantae is saying 2 to 3 out of 5, which is 50%. So the way that you get more conversions is starting out with having more what? Appointments and conversations. Okay. And you're going to do more of those if you feel confident and comfortable about having the conversation, and you disassociate yourself from the outcome. Because if you can get depressed because you had a great conversation and you don't get the business, it will not be sustainable. You will not continue. I can almost guarantee that! Exclamation point. Number 7 that I came up with, and on the recording, all 7 of these will be posted with the recording. So if you want to go, or excuse me, there's actually 12 of them. I put a bonus one in there, but all 11 plus the bonus will be posted with the video if you want to get the list. So I think we all have emphasized and worked on, our sphere of influence, our pure gold, the friends and family and clients. But I think what we have fell short on as an industry, and what will expand the total available market, is friends of friends. I'm going to repeat that: friends of friends. So if you have, does anybody want to say what your pure gold is, what your tribe of people who are going to refer you are? Just give me a couple of examples, please. Like Shantae, how many people do you feel like, if they're going to do a real estate transaction, would definitely call you in your contact list? Is it 15? Okay, and you've been in the business a short period of time. 2 years?
6 years.
6 years?
But here, I've been here
2 years, 3 years here. So we should expand. We need to focus on expanding that. There should be more than 15 people, said from contribution, not to be critical, but you should have, in my opinion, at least 50 people who, when they're going to do it, it should be automatic for them to call us. And you probably want to write that down, and maybe you want to consciously go out and identify those 50 people, and those 50 people are going to get a handwritten note once a week. Really? Once a week, you're going to send a handwritten note to them. So over a year, you'll hit all 50. You'll do a pop by, a Brian Buffini pop by with something of value. Those are your pure gold. Now, what I'm talking about, anyone else want to volunteer how many people you have on that list where their first instinct whenever they're going to do anything in real estate is to call you? Any volunteers for that? Somebody must volunteer.
I have,
Is that Rob Durso?
Yep.
So how many people, Rob, that you know that when they're going to do real estate, it's an automatic that they're going to call you?
I probably have about 250 on that list.
And you've been in the business longer than most. So that's the number. My guess is that number should be between 50 and 300. And it's not going to happen because we do a good job. It's going to happen because we nurture relationships. It's
Rob,
not
this
going
is
to.
Ron. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Ron.
Okay, so we're talking about this yesterday in my class. I have on all my SOIs, my past clients, I have 10 people that are looking to sell within the next 6 months. And then after that, there's another maybe 50 people that are going to sell in the next 24 months. So you have to follow up with those people, like you said, every two, I do it every month for the people that are 2 years away, but the people that are going to sell right away in 6 months to 12 months, they're on my list at least twice a month.
And how many people are on that list in total?
Probably somewhere around 300, 325.
And you've been in the business more than 10 years. We'll leave it at that, right?
Okay, yes.
So we all understand this component, but where I'm going to give a pivot is I'm looking at the friends and the sphere that our sphere has, right? How many people consciously go after the sphere of our sphere?
That's one of my main.
I do, Rob.
I do
Okay.
also.
I do.
So, and who is the, is that Pablo?
Yes, of course.
Okay, Pablo. Yes, that's fantastic. So when we, our pure gold, our primary sphere, we should be getting, 99% opportunity on all of their business. Like we should be at least in the game. Those should not be tempted by a button on Zillow, okay, or walking into an open house, because we should have them educated on the value and the necessity of working with us to have the best outcome. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, the next level, Pavla, is training or educating them on referring us to their sphere of influence, their friends and family, right? And the
Yeah,
best
I think, Rob, it's mostly having them understand that it's not you, meaning them, but it's whoever they know that you can help. Because a lot of people, well, I'm not selling, but you gotta put it in their head, the benefit for their sphere of influence.
So if there were, out of let's just make math simple, just because I don't want to do complex math problems here. But if we had 100 people in our sphere of influence, we sent out 2 letters a week, not too hard. We did a pop by, probably attempt 2 to 4 times a year to go see them or invite them to an event. So these people are pure gold. They're our hardcore sphere of influence. How do we develop a strategy to be top of mind for them to open their mouth and tell other people what a great job we do and what value we can add if they were to pick up the phone, if they were to reach out to us and say, hey, how can you help me with my real estate?
Consistency and bringing value.
Right. So, but so this number 7 is the sphere of the sphere, or the friends of the friends, total available market. So if we had an average 100 people, if those 100 people, maybe they're not in sales, maybe those 100 people only, have 50 people that are in their sphere. So that's, instead of 100, that's what, 100 times 50 is 5,000 people that are now in our total available market. And if we were able to get 2% of 5,000, that's 100 transactions a year. There's a very small segment of the team at RE/MAX Select that do more than 100. And if you take away teams, it's probably 1 or 2 people that do 100 transactions on their own. And this one piece, if you were to drive it home, focus on it and master it, would be a way that you can expand your total available market without having to go into these solicitation calls with people who don't know us and don't trust us yet. Okay. Number 8 is special campaigns. Okay. And a couple that come to mind, and I'm sure that some of you have some other ones, because I know I recall hearing them, but they just didn't come to me when I was doing this. One that came to mind was renovate or relocate. If you were to send out something saying, hey, if you wanted some advice on renovating or relocating, please reach out and give me a call. The message might have embedded in it that, I could share with you what upgrading your kitchen and bathroom would add to the value. So when you sell it in 10 years, if that's a good investment. And it might also be, we have a series of trusted vendors and contractors that we can offer you if you're looking to make a decision, right? And this gets even better down the line. But if you have some architects, some contractors, plumbers, electricians, general contractors that you can refer out to new business, right? Is that a good or a bad thing? Especially if they're people we trust. And Mr. Durso, I know that we have a very quiet audience here. So if you're able to talk, I want to lean into your 30 plus years of experience. So if you're referring quality people, what is that going to do to your brand?
Enhances my brand big time.
Right. So if you are having these conversations, you're having these communications, you're adding value by giving out referrals to trusted professionals. That enhances your brand. And that by itself is a good enough reason to do it. But you know what else can happen is, I'm going to skip to number 10, is once you are referring out to builders and other contractors, you can then go to them and say, hey, Bob the builder and Joe the electrician, you must get calls and you must know people that are thinking of buying or selling. Can you please reciprocate?
That is a cornerstone of what we should be doing on a daily basis. I think that the new word that I'm attaching to my brand this year is, am I referable? And the way to become referable is to refer, to get to those folks and become their go-to. Just by what you're saying right now, that's how you become referable, and anybody can do it on any level.
Shante?
No, I'm gonna say the quote that you always give.
Yeah. So Shante was just saying the old Zig Ziglar, if you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want.
Exactly.
And that's a Zig Ziglar quote, and it's also a foundation of the law of reciprocity.
Can I make a comment? It's Mike Eisner.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what I want to say, obviously, because of BNI, is when you get recognized as a referral source, you're not reaching out to touch these prospects in your database. They're calling you, which means they're thinking about you outside of the scope of when they want to do a transaction. They're thinking of you every time they have a need, and you're gonna get 10 times as many touches from that person reaching out to you. Do you know a plumber? Do you know an appraiser? Do you know, as you will need to do to reach out to them?
Right. And I think that that's also about positioning, right? Positioning and training. And one of the things that, I want to bring to our attention, and for those of you who've heard this many times, I think it's just a reinforcement, but there's a very fine line from being salesy to being a trusted advisor or a trusted resource that people seek out, right? We talked about a few weeks ago about being an expert and how people seek out experts, right? And all the others chase clients, correct? So like if you were, if you had a medical condition, right? Let's say you had some heart defect and you needed to get a very complex heart surgery, are you going to just Google it, or are you going to try to make sure that whoever's got your life in their hands is the best that they could be, right? And then you're going to seek out and try to find them instead of wait for people to call and say, hey, I just see that you had an echocardiogram and you need to have heart surgery. We'll give you 10% off, or we'll do it for the lower fee. Like that's ridiculous, but that's the reality of how we can position ourselves. And no offense to desperate slobs, but we don't want to be that desperate slob person. We want to go from a position of strength. Okay. He's dying on the other one. So, the way that we behave is the way that people pick up, and we need to be referral worthy, right? I think somebody made that comment. And
Rob, I have the agents send out a letter the beginning of the year in January that says, what can I do for you this year? And then it lists more than a dozen things that someone might be interested in, like give you information how to approach the tax assessor to get your property assessed properly, or the tax reduced. What's happening in the area, activities, art shows, it's just a long list of things that people might be interested in, other than just real estate.
right now, is there somebody who does actively work with FSBOs?
Just
Okay,
FSBOs or?
well,
just
I want to just focus on FSBOs for a second.
We've called a few.
So now, Ron, would you agree that there are some FSBOs that are never going to work with an agent?
Yeah,
Okay. So, and most of those people, they might just say, hey, we'll pay you a 2% fee if you find us a buyer, right?
most of the time, yes.
And most of the context that we use for that is we're trying to get a listing, and then they say, you bring me a buyer, I'll give you a fee, and you don't have a buyer in that area. So that's like a wasted call. But in terms of, building our business, we might even want to take some of those non-marketable people that are never going to list their home and have a pocket list of inventory to bring to our buyers, where we will get paid 2% on it, right? And sometimes when somebody finds a place to buy, okay, it frees up their ability to get a listing. Okay, so that the subject was 11 ways to create new inventory, and it's not new listings. And this one here, which is number 10, and actually I skipped number 9, but number 10 is, taking maybe, Zillow, Make Me Moves, for sale by owners that are never going to list with anybody. Sometimes flippers, if they're going to list it, they're going to list it with their agent that they bought it with. But wouldn't it be good if you knew that inventory was coming on and you can introduce it to your buyer, right? Let's see, we have pre-market, pre-foreclosures, some people that build new construction that are going to be building something. And a lot of builders in my market here in Union County and Morris County, they'll often wait until the property is done so somebody can really get the feel for it. Because if you ever marketed homes on plans, it's very difficult, and you usually get the best price once somebody can walk through and see the quality of the finishes. So if you know what's going on and what's coming on the market, you can introduce your clients to it before it hits the market and there's an abundant amount of competition. Okay. And I apologize for going back and forth, but the special campaigns, I also had home buyer and home seller seminars, client events. Anybody else have any kind of special campaigns that you might imagine that could generate extra business for us? Like, I can totally see a very well-crafted mailer or video saying, hey, if you're unsatisfied with your house, and by the way, 80% of the people that bought during the pandemic have said that they felt they compromised in buying their house. 80% of the people, which means they might want to renovate or they might want to move at some point. And if you're able to know the people who aren't satisfied with their house and are hanging on to it just because of the interest rate, do you think that would give you an advantage to when they decide to make a decision in the future? And I'm going to ask, if nobody answers, I'm going to lean into Ron or Rob Durso to answer those questions. But if we're building those relationships right now and they're holding on to it purely because of the interest rate, at some point they're going to acquiesce and say, I need to make a decision, right? And our discussion might even be, you know what, ready to buy, we'll help you out. Let me share with you the benefits of, you could rent your house out and keep your interest rate, or you could sell it. Now, you might say, Rob, why would I offer somebody to rent their house out? Because it's a discussion, it has integrity, and it builds brand value. And most people are not going to want to be landlords, right? They're not going to want to get a call on Saturday night when they're away in, Aruba saying that my toilet clogged up or the snowplower didn't show up to clean my house or whatever it is. But I think that we need to build value and not look at it from the short-term perspective.
Hey, Rob, it's Greg.
Hey, Greg.
Netta gave us, a few of us, some training on doing the tax equation, and offering a tax seminar on property tax valuation is a great way to get someone's attention. Even if they are current owners and they're not looking to move or whatnot, you're still showing knowledge and opening the door. So offering an online tax seminar. I have that information and how to run the DDR rate to find out exactly what range you should be in to see if you can, and if you are eligible for appealing your taxes. It's a good door opening. And then mentioning and dropping hints like, knowing your budget, 28% of your monthly income should be set aside for mortgage. And that's one way that people can understand exactly how much they should be spending each month. A lot of people don't realize that the average is 28% of your monthly income goes towards mortgage. People just don't know that. So using a tax seminar is a great way to bring people in that's not really real estate directed, buy, sell. Taxes, everybody wants to know about it. People have no idea how to do it. And it's a great way to get people in and start talking about real estate.
So, and I'm going to give you another example, and this might be something that would be best consumed by video. But I had an agent come to me with a property that was difficult to sell. It expired. It was a home in either Elizabeth or Hillside, and it had a medical. It was grandfathered for medical and like a home office. And it was assessed about 30–40% above all the other homes in the market. And, the home medical office is kind of somewhat of the past year because everybody's moved towards medical groups. So this house should have been assessed at about $17,000, and it was assessed at about $26,000. And it wasn't going to sell with the $26,000 assessment. Has anyone ever encountered that scenario?
Not yet.
Not yet. Anyone ever have a house that was unfairly assessed and it affected its ability to be sold?
Actually, yes, there is one, the 45 Oak Bend that I was dealing with in Llewellyn Park.
Okay.
But that was West Orange, and West Orange is, they're scrupulous and they're known to not care what anybody thinks, and they never lower their taxes. So at $125,000 a month, it's a little bit hard to have that reevaluated.
What were the taxes there?
$125,000 a year.
A year. Okay, so let me give you an example that's worked for me. Okay, and let's just say that let's look at the example. The one I have, Greg, is a little bit more relatable. We were looking to put this home on the market in June, July, or August. In New Jersey, the time period to appeal taxes, I think, ends on April 1st.
Yes.
So we had no ability to appeal the taxes. They needed to sell the home. There was a life circumstance where they couldn't sustain that house any longer, and it had expired with somebody else. And everybody said the taxes were too high. We weren't going to buy it. So what I did is I went on the listing appointment with the agent, and I came up with a strategy. I said, I believe your house is overassessed. I believe when it sells for $680, we will have prima facie evidence to get an appeal. The fact that we had it expire, we exposed it to the market, the most we could sell it for is 680. The sale of your house is an excluded sale for purposes of making your appeal, but I think it's strong evidence for the appeal. I said, I'm going to recommend that we confer with your attorney. We create an agreement which says that we're going to market it with taxes of $18,000. The seller will pay for the tax appeal. And if the tax appeal is unsuccessful, the seller will pay for 2 years of the difference in the taxes between the 18,000 and the amount paid. So we put in the MLS at 18,000. We put in the listing, and we had an addendum that went along with the contract that was drafted by the seller, myself, and it was refined by the attorney, signed at the closing. And we got an offer within 45 days for that property. When it was expired, we had a lot of activity, and we sold it exactly at the price we expected, like within $1,000 of it. The appeal was submitted. The seller, or excuse me, the buyer of the property in this case actually agreed to a compromise without consulting with the former seller. And they wound up losing the right to claim on that escrow, and the escrow was fully released to the seller. But it literally sold the property. If you're looking at a property, what do people look at? Do they look at the price, or do they look at the price and the payment? They look at the price and the payment. So we have 110 people here. This is something worthy to do. And just make sure that you have it reviewed by your broker manager and most likely the seller's attorney. But in this case, to move that house that was on the market for 680, with taxes that were at 25,000, we probably would have had to lower that below 600,000. And if the difference in the taxes was 7,000 and our maximum exposure is a $15,000 escrow we lose, we win if we lose, folks.
Yep.
Okay. If you like that idea, say, hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Heck yeah.
Okay. Has anybody ever done that?
Great strategy, Rob.
All right.
Hey, Rob,
So-
real quick. I happened to just wanted to share this with you. Picked up a few clients through Reddit. I follow New Jersey, and one or two people asked about moving to New Jersey, and I graciously shared some information, and they tracked me down through my website. So you can get leads anywhere, and I was kind of surprised that I did. I wasn't expecting it, but I found 2 people, and they both responded through Reddit.
So if you're able to find an audience, like a real audience through video, this is really impactful, right? Because I'm sure there are people who feel like their house is overassessed. Or maybe their house isn't even overassessed, but maybe they just feel the taxes are too high because they're like, hey, I live in West Orange. My taxes are too high. I'm just angry about it. Well, this opens up a conversation that you could have, right?
It's another solution. It's,
Yep. And Rob Durso, 109 or 110 people on this call, and nobody's thought about that. So there's an extra arrow in your quiver to go pursue more listings. And if you do it by video, and it opens up the question about, hey, if I was to sell, how would I handle that? You're identifying candidates, right? You do that on your Facebook. Hey, I had this seller, my brokerage actually just completed a sale recently of somebody who was overtaxed, and we're able to get them a price as if if it was taxed correctly. If you're interested or curious, hey, reach out to me, free consultation. Number 9. Now, I don't know, home buyer, home seller seminars, any other special campaigns or events that you can think of that you want to put in the chat or mention? Because I think, sharing these ideas, we have to have some other creative ideas that you could add. And if they're in the chat, I'll put them on the document when we post this to YouTube. Number 9 is doing a CMA a day. Sending an unsolicited CMA out to people in your sphere. Or maybe even a short CMA to expireds and haven't sold, right? Do something different and consistently. or rent by owners. That's going to be on my list here. I see that on. Somebody's cheating. Or we both have great ideas. So we have the builders. Did I mention alternative marketing sources? I don't think I went too deep into that, but we had accountants, financial planners, divorce and estate attorneys, estate sale companies, assisted living facilities, architects, contractors, etc. Number 9 is CMA a day. 10 is the builders, pre-market homes, Zillow, Make Me Move, for sale by owners with the intent of satisfying the needs for our buyers, flippers, and builders that we know are going to be coming on the market down the line. Number 11 is professional listing referral services. Anybody use a professional listing referral service? An example is Homelight, Ideal Agent, Upnest, Dave Ramsey. If not, I just said it. Homelight, Ideal Agent, Upnest, Dave Ramsey, like they charge you probably a 30 to 41% referral fee. But in this market, if you get a listing, what is the equivalent of getting a motivated listing? Or what's the difference between a motivated listing and a commission check? Rob Durso, what's the difference?
No difference.
A motivated listing and a commission check's the same thing. You just have to wait a few days.
That's it.
So
Can
we have
you
those
repeat that? I'm sorry, you said Homelight, Dave Ramsey, and what's the other, please?
Homelight, Ideal Agent, Upnest, and Dave Ramsey are a few that come to mind. There's a lot more. Like there's a sold.com. There's a lot of different services that do that. And you can use my secret tool, Google, and Google things like competitors to Homelight and Ideal Agent. You'll get an abundant list. I was just out at Remax's 50th R4. I will tell you that not only is that a inspiring event. I don't know, Adona, are you on the call?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Were you motivated and inspired by attending that event?
Absolutely. I spoke to you briefly and I told you that we should definitely get our team there next year because you learn tips and tricks, you meet other agents. I met somebody who received last year, we're talking about 10 referrals just being at R4.
So that's number 12, which is agent to agent and strategic referrals. Right. And I always have, you know, there's like the chicken and the egg theory, you know, which came first, and those questions of life. And I always say to myself, what's better, giving a referral and getting money for doing nothing, or getting a referral, which is like a pre-qualified, scrubbed, qualified client? I can't tell the difference. Like, what's better? Adona, what do you like better? You like getting them or giving them?
Both.
Both. So you basically copped out on that one. But I mean, they're both, it's like two great problems. I win here and I win there. It's a wonderful, wonderful problem. But if you don't show up, you win nothing. Right. You have great people that you meet that you can give referrals to, and then you can network to get referrals back to you. So we have, that's number 12. And then number 13, which is 2 bonuses, lucky 13, is for rent by owners, absentee owner lists, regional landlords, and speculators. So this one was ideally, this idea grew out of the fact that trend and that, what would I call it? I guess I just call it a trend of people looking for yield. We're going out of traditional investments and buying real estate. So you had like BlackRock and other companies that typically buy stocks, investing in single family homes and creating additional competition, reducing the inventory of homes available to our buying clients, right? We're all aware of that, probably more so in Florida. Zillow did it. Ron, did you see that in your market, Ron Piccolo? Like institutional buyers?
Rob, I'm on a call here. Hold on a second.
All right, no worries. So anybody in Florida, have you seen like institutional buyers coming in and buying properties that would have normally went to, you know, the
Oh, yeah, we have a
community?
big,
Yeah.
we have a big problem down here. Here is that between the big institutional, like BlackRock there, they start selling a few of them. But what do you call, they bought in the Tri-County area from Miami to Palm Beach, they bought more than 3,000 homes.
Okay.
And
So-
the other problem that we are having here is that because of the inventory going so down so quickly, so fast, is that so many people now, especially on east side of the town, meaning Fort Lauderdale, Pompano, you know, everybody that's close to the beach, especially in those areas, they have a lot of people turning their homes into Airbnb. So that's causing also the inventory to go down and causing problem also for the neighbors.
Okay, so Tony, you brought up another point to me. Are there more or less are there more or less towns that are imposing regulations that prohibit you from doing Airbnb? So are there more towns saying,
Well,
hey, you know,
yeah,
we're gonna
especially here in Plantation, where I live, especially here, what you call there, some people, they have complained about it, that they have complained about it. And what happened is that they have complained about it, especially here in Florida.
Tony, you have to unmute yourself. There's too much background noise. So
Especially here in where I live in Plantation, like I was saying, a few people, they have complained that they have complained there. So the cities here in Florida, they are stuck because if you did not change the rules and regulation about that before the state of Florida, this governor here, he changed the rule there that it's a private property and you have property rights to do whatever you want with it. And that's what they having a problem with. And a lot of city to get around that, they are trying to make it harder for the Airbnb people, like, you know, what they have to put in, all the security and all that jazz.
right.
But they're working on it.
So Tony, I'm gonna now, like, it's my understanding that the limitations, just like in New Jersey, where they're limited, either like condo associations or municipalities are enacting rules to prohibit you from doing that. And I don't know of any that have reversed it.
Well,
Somebody,
yes, yeah. The one they are more protected is the ones that they have a condo association.
right. And Tony, I'm running out of time here, so I'm gonna cut you short just so I can finish this up. But
Sure.
if somebody bought a house for an Airbnb and then municipal regulations prohibit them from using it as an Airbnb, do you think that might be a good candidate to get a listing on? What do you think? So these are things, and the speculators and the non-traditional investors in real estate, now the net they're doing is negative. So what they're doing is they're selling inventory instead of buying it. Okay, so they're selling more than they're buying, which means that that's an opportunity for us to build some relationships with some of these regional and national landlords, especially the non-traditional ones, say, hey, I might be able to help you out. And to be honest with you, not that I'm a proponent of being a discount broker in any way, shape, or form, but if somebody was going to give you 15 listings a month, would you be willing to do that for 1.75%, 2%, 1.5% on the listing side?
Everything is possible. It's only got to see, you know, what he's bringing to you, because I only see the number. Like if there is now $600,000-$700,000 house and somebody says that, I don't mind doing it because it still brings me $15,000, $20,000, $30,000. And especially in this market here, that the inventory we got now tight again. In Broward County, we only have 2,900 homes for sale in the whole county. That is more than 2 million people. So the house will sell quick and fast.
I mean, like, you know, there's, and most of these ideas, Tony, are from me being active with such a talented group here. But you know, hopefully some of these ideas resonate with you and we take some action.
Oh yeah, those
and,
are everything is good to reinforce. You know, we all know, especially the people that they have been in the business for a long time, they know, you know, what they have to do, and it's good to reinforce. I like what you're doing, that you are just like going to church every Sunday. Say, why are you going to listen to that guy? I say, yeah, I know it's the same thing, but I want to listen again to refresh my memory, my mind. You know, same thing in our business here. The basic, it is not complicated. It's just that you need to touch people, you need to talk to people, and go with the idea to helping people. As
well,
long as you go with the idea with the helping people, it can be all right.
Tony, I want you to come back with some good stories here from some of this juice that we're sharing here. I'm going to take it back for the last 5 minutes, and let me just say, I'm going to do some background noise. I'm going to mute everybody. We need to get out of our comfort zone and find ways to get video out there so that people see and can feel what we're doing. Okay, and that can just be a simple, you know, that your audience, that your friends that are on Facebook, maybe even unpaid, just sharing an experience. And there's so many experiences that I see, and it's almost like I even forget the name of who it was, but I was in this same conference room here, and there were 2 closings in a day. And the first closing, you know, the agent's walking them out the door. Hey, congratulations, right? And they're turning back to walk into the room, and they go, you know, hey, Mary, yeah, what's up? They're like, so can we actually go to the house now? After they signed all the closing documents, it was the cutest emotional thing. It was like an AT&T commercial from the 90s. Can we actually go to the house? Is it really ours? They didn't realize that it was their house, even though they signed the papers. Emotionally, they know it, but they're like, I can go there without permission. Like, think about it, if you just talked about that on a Facebook Live, or you recorded some sort of a video and talked about the emotional side of buying a house that people don't even understand. And then that same day in this same conference room, Avo from our Closter office had a sale with one of our agents here in Westfield, and it was actually the daughter of an agent that bought it. And Avo goes to give the person, here's the keys, congratulations. And she dropped the keys, and she goes, I just dropped that because I can't believe it's true. Like, this happened in this room, right on the other side of this table. And she couldn't believe that she was a homeowner. And that happened twice in one day. And we sometimes get a little bit emotionally removed from that whole process. And sometimes we need these experiences to take us back and to talk about that it's not just a shelter and a roof over your head. There's a lot of emotion and pride. And, you know, I've had people talk about how it's been generational wealth creation, that somebody in their house bought the first home and it changed the whole trajectory of their family. So we sometimes forget these things and we take it for granted that, hey, we just open doors and sell houses, but we do a lot more than that. And we have a bigger calling, a bigger responsibility to help people and share with them what we might take for granted. And the last thing I'll say is, you know, one of the most classic take for granted stories is when one of our agents lost a listing. And they were really, you know, this is probably about 6 or 7 years ago. They're talking about the technology, and we would optimize it on Google and everything else, and would put it onto the Remax collection and all this stuff. And they said, well, can you just share with me, like, you know, I respect the fact that you picked somebody else. What was the major factor? And they said, well, the other agent explained to me how the MLS worked. And I thought that was, can you imagine? Like, whoever explains to a client what the MLS is and how you share it, like, we assume that people know that, right? Well, this agent lost a listing, and they said, well, they were going to be putting it in the MLS, and they explained how that would help us get a higher price. I'm like, you've got to be kidding. So don't take anything for granted when we're trying to help people. And I hope that this gave you a couple of different ideas. I hope we could all take an angle of figuring out how do we put this onto video so that people can
Rob?
see and experience this more frequently. Yes, Colleen.
Not to interrupt, but we're doing something here in Florida that would probably be a good idea for all of us. Frank from Motto Mortgage is doing a series of videos for us talking about mortgages, rates, how different things impact it, so that we can share that with our sphere. And the title company is also doing something for us. They're making a series of videos, what do you do with the trust, what's probate, how do I take title, just short little videos that we can send out to our sphere. So I think that's another way of, working with our vendors and getting information out to the public that, like you say, they don't know things.
Right. And sometimes we take for granted because we're in the business, like we take for granted what the consumer perspective is on things, right?
Yeah, we
And-
think
and-
that they know what we know, yeah.
And something as simple as, explaining to them, when I join you as agents on a for sale by owner conversation, I have a belief that, those people believe that Zillow is the modern day MLS and that we're insignificant, right? So if we were to go on a opportunity like that, I would do my homework and say, there's 3,000 agents in Middlesex County. There are 400 sales last year in Woodbridge Township, and there were 615 agents that participated in one or another side of that transaction. Assuming that those 600 agents have at least 2 buyers that would be considering buying a property in Woodbridge, if we were to work together, we would be exposing your house to 1,200 additional qualified buyers represented by agents to help you get a higher price. Do you think that that might add some value and help you get a higher sale price at the end of the day?
Well, for sure, yeah, because there's a new report from last year where the market was so hot. There's a new report there on FSBO that they lost over 22%, in money that they lost there. So
Right. But I mean, sometimes, Tony, don't you think like just the things that we know and we take for granted, when we do that research, like you probably don't know that 615 agents participated in those 804 sales. But if you explain that to a homeowner
Sure.
and document how that's going to help them get a higher value, and even if you ask them, hey, if somebody brought you a client, would you pay a commission to an agent? They'd probably say, yeah, I'm paying 2.5%. So then I only need to demonstrate an extra 2% of value or 2.5% of value or 3.5% of value to earn your business and to provide, not only make the transaction easier, but to get a higher net in your pocket. And,
Yes.
and Shante, if you have that conversation 10 times, how many times do you think we might win? 2, 3? No, to 10 different people. I mean, even if you're not the most effective communicator, you probably win that conversation 2 or 3 times. And the question is, are you focusing on the 7 times that you don't win, or are you focusing on the 3 times that you do win to support your ability to continue doing that with the right attitude? So I hope, look at it, we're over. We almost always go over. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. We had a great
Sure.
crowd today. You guys inspire me. This team is amazing. And as
Hey,
long as
Rob.
you keep showing up, I'm going to keep contributing. Yes.
Rob, I just want to jump in to bring this full circle. You've talked about all the value. The one thing I think we need to also consistently just keep a mind on, Denise is here in New Jersey to provide home insurance. And in the last week, I've been able to save people from policies they were going to close with to moving over to the policies I had available for them, $300 annually, $400 annually. It's just as important to make sure they have the right insurance so they have a home to keep in the event that obstacles occur. And I just want to remind everybody, anything, a home warranty, homeowner's insurance, auto insurance, to give the insurance company a call. My cell phone number is out there, And I think it's an opportunity that needs to be escalated a little bit on every purchase so that it's rounded out for that consumer. Thank you.
And I would just say that, you know, part of what we do here relies upon our partnerships with ancillary relationships. And they contribute a lot of our ability to deliver what we do. So if you have an opportunity, if you could, you know, work with your lender, support our title, help out with insurance. I stand behind. If there's any issues, everybody here has my direct contact number. I just have one request, is if there's ever an issue, reach out to me when there's an opportunity to solve it. Don't wait till after it closes and then say, hey, I had a problem, because I do want to be involved. I do care. I know Denise and all of our affiliates are here because they want to add value to the process. And in doing that, provide more resources for us to be the market leader in real estate. All right. So I'm going to thank Denise, everybody that participated. You know, Tony, you're a great contributor.
I just wanna
Everybody.
say, one thing there about this, the social media there. If you can have one person do the work for us, to do that, even if I have to pay for, that's not a big deal. That is not, but that's the new thing, because I met on the social media there, I met an agent that after 1 year in the business in Texas, he closed 87 deals just from me putting his name out there.
So Tony, like, if you can go through Colleen or Fazia to connect those dots, we'd be glad to help you. And if anybody else, just go to your local manager and we'll find a solution for how we can connect you with that process. Okay, because we do have resources, we do care, we do want to help. And I believe that everybody's best use is being in front of people, not trying to learn, you know, what button to push to turn something live.
Exactly.
Well, thank you. Everybody have a great, productive weekend. Thanks for showing up. And, you know, I appreciate you all.